Today, you're going to complete a task to show off all that you know about finding the area of a rectangle using a situation involving kitchen counters. We're going to use a strategy called the 3-read strategy to understand this story. I'm going to read you the story, and all I want you to think about during the first read is what the story is about. What is the context? I don't want you to think about numbers or math. I just want you to get an understanding of what the story is about. Kitchen tiles. Austin's family is fixing their kitchen. They have 2 counters in their kitchen. They are covering all of them with square tiles. Here is the first counter. They have just started to cover it. Okay, so what is this story about? Well, this story is about a family. It's Austin's family in particular, and they're fixing up their kitchen. There's a couple counters in their kitchen. Just to clarify, we're talking about counters like a place where you set things on. I know we say counters a lot in math to refer to the little circular counters that you've sometimes used. So sorry if that's a little confusing, but counters in this situation is referring to the place in your kitchen where you set dishes on or you chop vegetables on, and not the math manipulative. Okay, and so they have 2 counters and they're covering them with tile. Do you have tile like this in your kitchen? It's important to note that there are square tiles. Okay, I'm going to read the story again. Now that we understand what it's all about, let's talk about the different quantities in this story. So what are the numbers in this story and what are their units? I'm going to read it again. Austin's family is fixing their kitchen. They have 2 counters in their kitchen. They are covering them all with square tiles. Here is the first counter. They've just started to cover it. What are some quantities that we see in this story? Well, the first one is I see 2 counters. And then we don't really know how many, but there's an unknown and then square tiles. And then finally, there's the first counter. So we know we're going to use these quantities to solve a mathematical question. And that's what we're going to talk about next. What mathematical questions can we come up with based on this story? Remember, a mathematical question is something that involves numbers and math. So the question, what color should the tiles be, is not necessarily a mathematical question because all you need to do to answer that question is just repeat a number or a color like red or blue or yellow. But a question like how many counters are in the kitchen? Well, there are 2 counters. That's a mathematical question because it involves a number. Let's read it again. Austin's family is fixing their kitchen. They have 2 counters in their kitchen. They are covering them with square tiles. Here's the first counter. They have just started to cover it. What are some mathematical questions we can come up with using this story? What about how many tiles will they need to cover the counter? That's a mathematical question. Another one could be, if they already have this many tiles, how many other or more tiles do they need? And then let's just add another one. If each tile is $2. How much money do they need to cover the counter? There are endless amount of mathematical questions that we can come up with for this story. But we're going to stop here. If you had another one, feel free to share it with your class in a discussion. Okay, let's look at the task that you're doing today. Here's the task, kitchen tiles. We've already read this, but let's read it one more time. Austin's family is fixing their kitchen. They have 2 counters in their kitchen. They are covering them with square tiles of the same size. So here's the first counter, and they've just started to cover it. How many tiles will it take in all to cover this counter? So including these tiles here, how many will it take to cover the whole counter? And then you explain how you figured it out. So that's for counter number 1. The second counter will be 5 tiles wide and 6 tiles long. Draw that picture here and label it. So you can use what you did here, and you can make your visual look similar to this. How many tiles will they need to make that counter? And explain how you figured it out. Finally, how many tiles will Austin's family need all together to cover both of their counters? And show how you figured it out. So use what you did in number 2 and number 1 to answer this final question. Be sure to show all of your work and do your best to show how many tiles Austin's family needs to cover their counters. Good luck.